Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Presents on Shudder. I am Sean,
And I'm Missy.
and what are we going to be talking about today, Missy?
We're talking about the movie Sun on Shudder from 2021, written and directed by Ivan Kavanagh, and starring Andy Matichak and Emil Hirsch. About a mother has to decide how far she'll go to protect her son while she's being hunted by a cult and dealing with a strange illness that her child develops. And it unfolds from there.
You notice that it dawned on me. So I'd seen this when it first hit Shudder in 2021, and this was my first rewatch. This movie knowingly takes from both The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby, because you've got scenes of like a big group of kind of regular looking people that are cultish, like standing in a room, like, you wouldn't expect them to be a cult, but they're a cult, right? And their presence is culty. And then you've also got the medical shit. One of the things about The Exorcist I always thought was like, it just beats you black and blue before you even get into the possession shit, is Reagan going through the spinal tap and all this terrible shit.
That's like the scariest scene in the movie.
Yeah.
At least it's the one that always unnerved me the most, is that medical scene in the CAT scan or whatever she's having done.
Yeah, it's really rough. And it just wears your resistance, it wears your emotions down, so that then when the real shit happens, it's like, oh dude, really? And this does a really good fucking job of doing exactly that. Like,
it does.
Andy Matichak as the mother, Laura/Anna, man, like there's a point where I almost like had tears in my eyes, because she's like, nobody knows what the fuck is wrong with my son. She's like sitting by his bedside, and she's just like, I love you. And oh man, it's just rough. It's just hard to watch.
Okay. I mean, I don't find it hard to watch. But it's a movie that grabs me immediately from the jump.
Yeah.
Like, it feels very fast paced. It's only, it's an hour and about 40 minutes, so it's not like excessively long, but it doesn't feel like, it feels like it's the length it should be. The pace.
I agree.
Good. And it's one of those movies that to me, I think the movie's exquisite. Like, it's almost a perfect film. I really don't have many complaints about it. I think the performances are fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially Andy Matichak and Emil Hirsch.
Yeah.
They're both excellent. I really care about both leading characters. And that's because these characters are so well fleshed out and you care about them. Like, that's where the emotional roller coaster comes from.
Yeah.
Like, you care what happens to them. I feel like the story is very engaging. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, but it also keeps you guessing, because, what's real? What's in her mind?
Yeah.
Are things actually as Laura sees them, or is she an unreliable narrator? Like, you're not really sure what you're looking at. And the kid keeps getting worse. And as we see what's going on with him, like, you have theories and you think it's going one way, but again, you're not sure. Are we dealing with a medical problem, mental illness, demonic forces, cults, both? It all gets kind of blurry, but it's all extremely character driven. So, and then when we do get violence, it's very, very effective.
Yeah.
It's not constant violence, constant gore, but when you get it, like the other gore hounds out there, myself being one of them, like, it has what I want. And like, the gore and the creature effects and whatnot they're practical, they look great. When you get it, it's very effective. And to me, like, this is one of those movies that reminds me why I love movies.
Yeah.
It's independent.
Understood.
It's low budget. They use their creative, you know, they flex their creativity. The, you know, the practical effects are literally like breathtakingly gorgeous. It's I love this movie, and I think this is the third time I've seen it.
Hmm.
I
This
want
is
to say this
definitely
was probably the third
this is definitely one. So this is what we're doing this on Shutter show for, where there's people that, so I remember this was kind of born of you telling me, so the new Joe Bob season, The Last Drive-In on Shutter was announced, and they've done a thing where it's every other week and it's one movie instead of two so that it can last longer. And that's because they they haven't said this, but it's why they're doing it, is because people sign up for Joe Bob in April and then they cancel in June when it ends, right? Because it's usually 10
time.
weeks of double features every Friday night. And you see a lot of people in online Mutant Family, Last
Mm-hmm.
Drive-In social media groups saying, like, every year, like, hey, I'm on Shutter for Joe Bob. What is on here that's good? And to me, like, I don't know. If I have something, I look through it and I'm like, I'll try this or I'll read about stuff. And I also just, try to keep up with what's coming out. And they've gone from being, when we signed up in like 2018,
Mm-hmm.
they were a streaming service that curated like pre-existing content. Now, like with this movie, they're funding this shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like of late, it's always Shutter IFC Films. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're doing so many movies now, but so then and I believe IFC is also owned by AMC, which Shutter is owned
It
by.
is, I believe. I
And
think it's owned by them too.
there's so many movies they've had a hand in funding, and some of them just live on there. So this premiered on there in 2021. It's been on there ever since. It's never gone away. Um, and it's not going to be like, to find this movie now, it's been out long enough where you're going to have to go to the search page and type
Mm-hmm.
in SON, or you're going to have to go to all movies and just scroll, which I do sometimes. Um, but that's why we're doing the show. Like, hey, this is worth your time.
This is worth your time. And it's easy for these movies to slip under your radar. Like, I mean, we recently did Anything for Jackson, which slipped under mine. I had that was a first viewing for me.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And I feel like this is an easy one to it's an easy one to miss. The thumbnail isn't real grabbing. It's just like a
Yeah,
picture
it's
of
okay.
the mother and her son. Like it's easy to scroll past it. And it's a fantastic film.
Yeah.
And I love that we're seeing so many of these movies now. Like now, Sun was it just went straight to Shudder, but now we're seeing these on Shudder movies in theaters.
I
We've
love
seen a
seeing the
few as
Shutter
of late.
logo on the
Me
theater.
too. Every it makes me so happy when those big red letters fill the screen and you get that
Bum,
sound, the
bum,
Shudder sound.
bum, bum.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I
Fuck
love
yeah.
that. And we're seeing like the last couple movies that we've all gone to see have been
Yeah.
Shudder IFC originals. A couple years ago, those just went straight to Shudder. They didn't go to the theater.
Yeah, right. So it's things have changed and it's nice to be able to see stuff like this. I'd love to see this on a big screen.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I would too.
there's the lighting is exquisite, the gore is exquisite,
Mm-hmm.
and also like I feel like, so Ivan Kavanagh, I had seen his first movie on Shutter TV like during the pandemic, where I was working truncated hours but still going in every day, so I'd come home and fall asleep on the couch. I put on Shutter TV and I saw this, like woke up and it just started, or I saw the Canal, and it's no longer on Shutter. That one was not a Shutter production. It's currently on Tubi, or you can rent it on Amazon. But I think it's definitely, if people watch Sun, it's not quite as accomplished. Like I think making the Canal led to making Sun, but
Okay.
it is very good. And the thing with Ivan Kavanagh, like he is very visceral with violence and gore. Almost to the point where like there's Son has a vibe that almost would be outside of where I go. But the thing is, he spends so much fucking time humanizing his characters. The shit that you go through with Andy Medichek and her son, the titular son, is played by Luke David Bloom. David, yeah, the character. Oh my God. Like it just really, in the same way that the Exorcist kind of does that, it kind of beats you up enough, but it also like, man, I care so much for them. So when shit happens, and I don't want to get too specific, like you're okay with it because of where you are with them as characters in a way. And also there's a great one, like I love the scene in the motel because there's a scene where it's just like, you know what's got to happen, and you're just thinking your target's outside. Like, just nobody's gonna miss that dude, right? Like, just right. And she does. I love it. I love the way that scene unfolds.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I mean, it's not even just her, because then you've got the moral dilemma with the detective, because he's formed an emotional connection with this woman, and he obviously cares about her, but he's also, I mean, he's a detective, and all these dead bodies are showing up. Like, so he's got some moral calls of his own to make. And I think not only does it beat you up the way The Exorcist does, see, the movie that I love, The Exorcist, but The Exorcist doesn't really beat me up. But Rosemary's Baby does. And this does in that way. It's the paranoia. That's what always stuck with me with Rosemary's Baby. And they play on that a lot in this too. She is becoming more and more frantic as things are spiraling out of control. And you're not sure what's happening, what's real and what's in her head. And Rosemary's Baby does the same thing. Like, because she's, saying that, this cult has infiltrated her. It's been a while since I saw that one, but the cult is closing in on her, and she's sure there's something wrong with her baby, but everything looks normal. And, all of the culty people, like, they just look like regular people. And as that movie goes on, and as we're getting toward the third act of this movie, you're questioning too, is what she's thinking is happening? Right. And both Rosemary's Baby and Son do answer that question.
Yeah.
But it's the getting there that it plays on your paranoia, your emotions, it makes you feel trapped and like everything's spiraling out of control too. That's the part that affects me more. It makes you anxious.
Yeah.
In a good
in a good way. In the way that you want a horror movie to make you anxious.
Right. Like, if it gets under my skin, it's working.
Yeah.
And we're all jaded, so I mean, the stuff that it's usually weird, subtle shit that gets us.
Yeah. I think this movie came out the same year as another movie that we've talked about. We will cover on this show, and that's Random Acts of Violence. And I feel like there's a definite similar tone to both.
Oh, were they the same year?
I think so. They were close. They were definitely.
Okay. I thought Random Acts was first.
It might have been. Oh,
See, I would have guessed that one at like 2019, maybe.
You know what? You're right. So I'm wrong. It's 2 years. I don't know. That's weird. They remind me. They just have a similar. Part of it's the severity.
I can see that.
Because there's definite, like, again, the violence in both, but in Son, there's just some stuff where it's like, holy shit, man. Like, wow.
I don't know. There's some pretty messed up violence in Random Acts.
Well, there's
That's some
more. Random
twisted
Acts,
shit.
like, there's
Right.
way more of it in that movie.
That's true.
But both great movies that need to be seen. And this is, this is why we do this show. Because if you're on Shudder and you don't know what to watch, let us tell you. And I don't think we'll steer you wrong. One of the edicts of this show is this is not a review show. If one of us pitches a movie and the other one doesn't like it, we're not going to do it because, okay.
Not for this. I mean, we may talk about it on.
Yeah, on the regular Horror Vision, it's free game.
We can, right. You can like and dislike whatever, but the whole point of this is like we can't comb the video store anymore and find those tapes that we used to
Yep.
We'd all be looking for those hidden gem videos and then pass that VHS around to all our friends.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore, but that's where this comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Let us be the weirdo in the video store that's like, hey kid, you like the cover to pieces? Pretty fucked up, right? You rent that. Don't tell your ma that I told you to rent that. Yeah, it's a fucked up movie, right? Let us be that guy.
Well, we're good at finding those movies. This is, I mean, it's a low budget movie, but it's like it doesn't look like a low budget movie, and the acting is fantastic.
It really is.
It's well written. I mean, it's a spin on a story that we already know, but I mean, it's gonna throw you for some loops. The ending, the ending makes sense, and I never saw it coming.
I feel like it's expertly done because they're able to skirt the line of wait, what is this? I don't know. Like you just have the same questions as the character. And that's hard to do up until like there's a moment in the last like 3 minutes where you're like, oh shit, what the fuck? Wow. So man, and it's very, very well acted. Like everybody in it's fantastic.
I agree.
This movie had 28 producers.
I'm noticing that now. I never noticed it until you and Anthony brought it up recently about all those production credits in the beginnings of these movies. And now I was watching this slasher on Shudder last night, Party Hard Die Young. And it has like 7 different producer credits in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I never would have noticed that.
I think it was, I just saw Love Lies Bleeding, and I feel like there was like an ungodly number. And it's just what it takes to get these kind of independent movies made. Like that's just what it takes. You need to have that many people, like that many investors, that many people like producing, getting involved. And fucking man, I just would like to thank everybody that does that because it's producers are largely, especially when there's 28 of you, it's a largely like it's almost uncredited. Like nobody's gonna read through all. Like I'm looking at the 28 producers. Okay, Emil Hirsch is a producer, but other than that, like nobody's gonna remember. Like J.B. Shaw was an executive producer. Nobody's gonna know that. So these people believe in, and like I get why they believed in this movie.
Well, and again, if that's what it takes to make these movies, then that's fine. Thank you to all of those people because these are the movies I want.
Yeah, well said.
I will, without a doubt, I will always, when given the choice, give my money to the independent.
Yeah.
I don't care about the big blockbuster. I'll see that when it hits Netflix. Those big, most of the big blockbuster movies, Marvel, Disney, all that crap. I don't even care about that. I don't watch much of that. I I want this, and stuff like stop motion and the movies that you go to the theater and there are three other weirdos sitting there, and you're with your people. Those are the movies I want.
Yeah, and it is like it's to go back to what you were saying earlier too. It is very much like the video store because Shudder is basically the horror section in the video store at this point, right? And I mean, I always loved and felt at home in the horror section, but there's a bunch of shit I'm like, I ain't watching that,
Oh, yeah.
like but that's the thing. That's why we want to do this show. Is like, no, there's stuff on here that I feel like is exemplary and for the genre, and Sun is definitely one of them.
I agree. I mean, that is when we started talking about doing this, that was one of the first movies that I suggested.
Yeah.
Like it was one of the first things that comes to mind.
Well, so that's Sun, 2021, Ivan Kavanagh. If you watch it, come back here, leave us a comment and say, hey, you know what? Go fuck yourself. I don't think you're going to say that, though. I think you're going to say, holy shit. I always wondered what a hollowed out torso looked like. Now I know. Yeah.
And knowing is half the battle.
And knowing is half the battle. Oh, and on that note, for the Horror Vision Presents on Shudder, I'm Sean.
And I'm Missy.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus MV20 soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet,